And we continue, Dirshu Mishnah Berurah, Hilchais Tefillah, Siman, Itzadi. We started discussing yesterday the places in which one is able to daven and the problem with davening in an elevated area, that one might be afraid to fall, as well as it's a balgaiva to be in such a high area when one is davening. We continue with Sif Dalit, says the Mechaber, Sarich leftoyach b'sachem ha'chalonis keneged Yushalayim, k'dei le'isbalel kenegdan. When you're davening, you got to open the windows facing Yushalayim to daven facing it. V'toiv, says the Mechaber, what's good? Shia bebeis ha'knesses shneim asar chalonis. It's good to have 12 windows. So says the Mishnah Berurah, oy chalonis. V'afilu bebeis ha'knesses shemzalum ha'tzibur nachal nizar b'zeh. Even if you're davening with the tzibur, you should still open the windows. Certainly, if one is davening by himself, why? Because when you're davening by yourself, you need more to take the tefillah up. You need more to catapult that tefillah to Yushalayim. When you're with a tzibur, one would think, no, the schus of tzibur is enough. Says Mishmur, no. Even in that scenario, you should open the window. But certainly, if you're davening by yourself, you should only have it in a house that has windows. Even though, as we're going to see, that the appropriate way to daven is not to gaze upward, it's to look downward. Who cares? Says Mishnah Berurah, you know why you have the window open? Because sometimes in the middle of davening, you lose your kavanah. And what do? So you look upward, you take a glance up to heaven, and that will be able to bolster your kavanah. That will be able to bolster your kavanah. And now we continue, Mishnah Berurah, we've got the test that it says you should have 12 windows, to whichever direction you want. It should also be facing Yerushalayim. We continue with Sif Hey, he says the Mechaber, you should not have in a field, because when you're in a secluded, when you're in a tsanua area, then you have more fear of heaven and a broken heart, and you're able to daven better. So just to sit in an expansive open field is not correct. Says the Mishnah Berurah, it's a chutzpah to daven in such a scenario. Even though we know you're supposed to have windows, but if your other option is to daven in a wide open field, it's better in the house. If you're on the road and you're on the side, so you know that people aren't going to bump into you, then it's allowed. And the Beis Yosef didn't bring such a reason. Even though, important nikuda we're seeing over here, even though we answer up the question, and we explain that to daven in this field, to daven in the street, if you take care of the traffic, you make sure on the side, it's really okay. But Al Pi Kabbalah, says Mishnah Berurah b'Shem Zayar, you should still daven in the house. Someone's traveling. Of course, you have no choice, you let it down in the field. It's better to daven amongst the trees. Unless it's going to be a big deal to pull over to the trees. It's a little bit secluded. Now this is an important detail. As you're seeing over here, the ideology and what you're looking for when you're trying to find a place to daven. Someone's traveling and he needs to daven. Beautiful, he gets a minyan gevaldik. Where should that minyan be? Find an area which is ksas tsanua. Find an area which is a little bit more secluded. People aren't going to bump into you. That is the best place. If cutting your base, come on, if a place has walls, even if it doesn't have a roof, that is fine as well. And we continue with Sivav, says the Mechaber of Loi Bechorba, you can't daven in a broken down house for 3 reasons. Chshad ma'pailes and ma'azikin. So what exactly does this mean? We turn to Mishnah Berurah, Sivkatan Yud Gimel, It's better to daven on the road than to daven in the broken down house. There's only one of the reasons. Which we'll see exactly what that is, when that's relevant, that you could daven in an abridged form of tefillah. So what are the reasons? What's the chshad? You're walking in on your own to some dilapidated building, people are going to suspect that there's a zaina there. If it's out in the field, you don't have this issue. Because the zainas don't hang out in the field. Similarly, if your wife is with you, let's say it happens to be an abandoned house, but it's strong, it's not going to fall, then like then we don't have the second issue that it might fall. And if two people going together, then there's no concern for mazikin. So to take care of all three issues, if you're in the field, if it's strong, and if there are two people, then you don't have to worry about it falling. You don't have to worry about the zaina, nor do you have to worry about the shadim and mazikin, because you have two people. Two people, the shadim do not bother. If there's three people, the shadim don't even bother at all. Unless you know it's some area which is infested with shadim and mazikin. If you have a torch, it's like two people. If there are two people together, then you're allowed to enter into this. Then you're allowed to enter into this ma'apailas to daven, even if it's going to be in the field, because then you took care of all the concerns that there's two people, it's in the field, and the building is strong. And we move up to Sif Zayin before we call it a day. One more Sif. Says the Mechaber. We're not going to be able to finish this Sif, but we will begin it. You should not daven behind the shul unless you turn to the shul. That's where the door opens to. We have an issue because we have two different explanations. That means both are going to be a problem. You're on the side of the shul. You should turn to the shul. Says the Mechaber, this is only if it's nikar, that what you're doing, but we're going to pause in the middle of Sevav, because you don't have the next page in front of us. So let's just begin the Mishnah Berurah. What is going on over here? Sevav explains the Mishnah Berurah, B'tshuvas Yad Eliyosef, Mizayin Kasaf. Dinir Ali, Mash Amru, Gabi, Misvela, Achayri, Beis HaKnesses, Lo Yishayach, Ela Dafka, Kshatzibur, Mispalim, Tvila, Shemana Esrei. This is an issue. If the inside the davening Shemana Esrei, and you're be outside the shul davening, that's the problem. So we see that the Yad Eliyah is learning that this issue is a Shemana Esrei issue. For you to daven Shemana Esrei outside in a different direction, and the tzibur is davening, that is the problem. Sivkata Tazayin Akal Kalaimar. You daven on the side that the door opens to. Sham Dainu B'tzad Ma'ariv. It's on the west, meaning east is where you daven to. Now you're davening on the west, on the opposite wall. Lefikach and Machzar Panav Klavi. Basic and if you turn towards the shul, then the tzibur is davening this way, and you might be behind, but you're davening the same way. But let's say you do the opposite. Tzibur is davening this way and you're davening that way. Nikra Rasha, a strong term that we're seeing over here. To daven the opposite of the Tzibur is called a Rasha. Why? It seems everyone's davening this way and you're turning around and davening the other way. Looks like you have a different God. As long as you're going to be doing what everyone else is doing, you don't have this issue. Some say the opposite. Who das ri? Who v'tamidi reinu shayna sham? The farshi achayri b'sekinas I know achayri koisal mizrachi, not in the back of the shul, but in the eastern wall of the shul. Shein sham sacham, there are no doors. Shayim achayri oisay koisel v'achayri klap koisel. If you daven out behind that wall, and your back is towards the wall, even though you're facing the same direction as the people, again, let's get this clear. Everyone's davening straight, and you're in front of the shul, we'll call like in front of the Aron Kodesh, and you're davening also straight, the same direction. Still, you're a Rasha. Why? You never can turn your back to the Heichel. You can't put your back towards the Aron Kodesh. If you turn towards the shul, so now we see something interesting. If you're in the front of the shul and you turn around to face the Aron Kodesh, even though you're facing west and they're facing east, it's not a problem. Why? Everyone's davening towards the eastern wall that has the Eichel. We said he should be chayshish for both the Yeshitas, and with this we conclude. If God didn't ches, you should only daven in the west. The basic in Hesed. And again, if we were to use this example, we see they have a wall in front of me over here. So if everyone's davening this way, so if you're in the back, you have to face this way. If you're in the front, you have to face that way. As you always have to be sure that you're davening in A, the same direction as everyone else, and B, that you can't have your back towards Aron Kodesh, which is, by the way, and with this we conclude, one of the reasons why often a Rav will get up when he speaks, he'll kiss the Pareiches. What's he doing? Because he's about to put his back towards the Pareiches. How can you put your back towards the Pareiches? So you kiss it first, and then you're doing it to Yel Satzibra, the Rabbim, to give the shir, etc. That would be the reason why it's allowed. We'll pick it up from here in the next shir, B'siyata Dishmaya.